Today is the last day that this house is my home. I will become a man's wife and attend to him, love him, and bear his children. I will no longer be my own. I will become another's. I can see the people now at the ceremony with their eyes drawn to me as I descend down the aisle. As I imagine it, their eyes are like daggers piercing towards me. I try to drift my thoughts to something else. Now all I can see is his face. A face so sweet I imagine waking up to it every day. I lift my hand to cover my smile just thinking about it. He could have been mine. He's a chance I wish I'd never let go of. Now I sit here half a decade later, after I made the one decision I regret. And I think of Frank. As I finally open my eyes after an unfulfilling sleep, I think about how my brothers felt on the morning of his wedding, knowing that he was a step closer to escaping father's discouraging authority. Ernest also escaped father, but in a different way, a direction I hope I will not resort to: death. He was the spitting image of father, yet they were nothing alike. He was kind and gentle, yet it is so often that the most delicate things are so easily destroyed. I wish that war had never happened. 4 years of pain, darkness, taking the only light from my life, Ernest. Yet the war is what brought Frank to England. Now I wonder if my life would have been brighter if I had never encountered him, because then I wouldn't be living with such dilemma. My thoughts are interrupted by the sound of the house awakening with the scurrying of maids and the lighting of fires. The sun that usually awakens me has yet to rise. I raise my hand to pull the bell to call for my lady's maid. I begin to recognize the smell of smoke floating through the air, due to the fire from last night, before fizzling out. My sheets now confide me in warmth, as my fire once did. I steady myself upright in my bed and I use a switch to light the fire in my lamp. The intensity of the flames flare up, as does my burden of choice. I pick up the letter from the table beside my bed and remove the letter from the envelope that contains it. I feel a rush of temptation to burn it, as if my body is making a decision for me. I give in and hold the empty envelope over the burning fire of the lamp. I watch as the warmth of the fire engulfs the delicate paper of the envelope. I feel the harsh heat of the flames eat at the tip of my fingers, burning them. My name on the front is submerged, and the charcoal flakes descend to the bedside table. My name disappears almost as if I never existed. Now I grasp the letter in my hand that the now non-existent envelope once held. I am contemplating to read it for one last time or not, finding myself drawn to the writing the ink has formed on the pages and the feeling the warmth that gave my heart, like a fire. But if I read too much again, it will burn my heart, just as when my fingers were near the lamp fire for too long. Seeing his face in front of me as the words remind me of his kindness, yet all I see in his face is sadness, which is how I saw him for the last time. As I stood still and he walked on the boat into the future I gave up. Now I have been given to another man, and not for love, but for the honor of my family. I feel more for the maids who attend to me than I do for him. Yet I feel guilt to even consider the man who wrote this letter. I feel guilt even thinking of his name. Is it so selfish of me to be longing to be with him, because he's the only man who has ever made me feel anything? As I turn towards the burning lamp with the letter in my hand, I feel myself give in and turn the lamp off, watching the flame go out. As one light goes out, another begins to creep in through the window and gleam onto my face. I closed my eyes as I grasped the only moment of serenity I have felt since receiving the letter. The moment is broken with disruption from my lady's maid walking in as she does. I lift my legs from the bed and rise up and walk towards the window, gleaming with light. The flowers for the ceremony are being sprawled across the front garden along the rows of chairs, being fed by the rising sun, as they have no hope of life, because they lost their life when they were ripped from the earth that grew them. If I marry the man I am betrothed to, I will rip from my earth of love that Frank grew with me. I walk to my breakfast tray where I find a letter, and I feel the tears immediately when seeing my name perfectly scribed with my mother's handwriting. As I begin to read, the words overwhelm me as I learn that this letter is the last one she wrote, was purposed for my wedding day. It feels as I am reading my own confliction and feelings on the page. My mother once loved another man, decided to marry my father, the rich and honourable man, for her family. She left behind a life that she longed for, yet as she continues writing, she says that her purpose was fulfilled being married to my father. She was gifted with her children. Those years ago when I gave up a life that I dreamed of, one of passion and love, for a life of responsibility and expectation from my father, a man too weak to carry his name with honour, I realised why I chose not to go with Frank, why I chose to watch him sail away, because I felt it would honour my mother, and that I would feel close to her. Reading the last page of the letter, my mother writes of a great love she had, not for the man she felt passion with, but for my father, a man she says she grew to love, a greater love than any other, because they made a life together. They became one. And as I kneel by the fire, I can remember us all before Mother passed, when Ernest was still alive. Sitting by the fire, I would sit on my father's lap and stroke his beard. The day my mother died is the last time that I touched my father and embraced him. Now I realize that he wasn't a weak man, but a broken one, and that he lost the greatest of his life. And I involuntarily find myself reaching for the letter into the fire as I watch it become non-existent. I wipe my tears and twist my hair into a bun as I slip out of my nightgown into my wedding dress, looking in the mirror and knowing that today will be the first day of the rest of my life.